Hello, once again, and welcome to Dice Friends. My name is Jer. I will be your game master for the evening, and we are going to be running a Rasp of Sand. Now, I came and ran this a couple weeks ago to kind of fill a dungeon mastering hole that in the schedule, and we had a lot of fun with it. So we figured we would come back and we would do it again, and see if we could get any farther into it. Now, this is an interesting adventure. It's an adventure that has the distinction of borrowing a lot from roguelikes. So roguelikes are a genre of video game where you always start from the beginning with a fresh new character, usually at first level, and you carry very little over from previous attempts. The game Dark Souls borrows a lot of roguelike elements. It's not strictly speaking a roguelike, but it borrows a lot from them, as does this game. So this is, roguelikes were inspired by early Dungeons and Dragons. This game takes roguelikes and rolls them back into Dungeons and Dragons. It's like an open sourced game experience where they have taken the Divergent video game branch and brought them into the tabletop game. So that's very exciting. This is the book.
Sort of an Ouroboros.
Ooh.
It's it's a so the game is a zine. It is created not entirely but largely by a single person named Dave Cox. You can find him as Dastardly Dave on itch.io, I believe, and it was created as part of Zine Quest, which was a Kickstarter drive to try and get a lot of these different indie RPG zines made. This is something that I am really taken with, or have been really taken with recently, is the sort of rise in independent D&D based games that borrow a lot from Dungeons and Dragons and in many cases earlier versions of Dungeons and Dragons, and try and do interesting things with it. And so I've been following a lot of these creators for like a bit of time. I've been sort of checking out the community, and there's some really neat stuff in there. And so there's a lot of independent creators who are putting out books essentially by themselves, largely like made in Microsoft Word in a garage, and coming up with some really interesting and unique concepts. And this one is especially cool. I've been waiting for it for quite a long time since it was announced, because as I was saying, it's an adventure that is sort of a system. Like it builds off the system Knave, which is itself another independent system, but it brings in a lot of interesting ideas, sort of character class like advancement with professions, and then it has this idea that you have a dungeon that is pseudo randomly generated. So every time you go through it, it's different, and the dungeon master or game master creates the dungeon kind of as you go, and as you go through it, someone's going to die. Now, if you played a lot of old school Dungeons and Dragons, you know that characters dying is just something that happens. And what I like about this is it acknowledges it. It's a big feel bad, especially if you've sort of grown up with modern D&D, which certainly I did. When your character dies for the first time, especially when you're like in the second session, so you had like one session to grow fond of them, and then session number two, boom, the axe comes down, character dead, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go home now. Maybe I shouldn't have brought these chips. How dare you, dungeon master? So I like that this acknowledges it, and it says no, that's part of the game. So the idea is every time that one character dies, the entire group restarts, and you start the dungeon again, but it's different than the last time that you went through. There will be some similarities, so you can learn from the previous times that you went through, but it will be different. So when we played it before, we played one session and it was fun, but we were sort of running it with the idea that, okay, we're just kind of checking it out. We're gonna see what the system is about, and maybe we'll have a death and we'll get to see how the restart mechanic works and whatnot. But because we're gonna be playing this for a couple of weeks, we could actually see a lot more of the dungeon, and I really am looking forward to that. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Now we have, unlike last time where we created characters live, you've already seen that. So we have for us three characters that are coming to this pre-made. So if you want to see what the character creation looks like in Rasp of Sand, you can check out the previous video, which is available on YouTube. I'm sure people are linking it in the chat as we speak. You can go and watch that, and that will give you not only half a Dice Friends episode of character creation, but also everything that happened to the first 2 generations of characters. Now, because we're changing up the lineup a little bit, I've decided that we're actually just going to start a new run. We are going to assume that Kathleen's character from the previous run died, and that we are bringing that everyone went back to the island, and a new generation has started. I'll give a quick recap on how the story is set up. Quite some time ago, the Queen of the Depths, the sea goddess of the setting, was very perturbed when a small group of humans came and took her crown, which they had intended to use to make fresh water, because they had stupidly built a village away from any source of fresh water. So they came into her temple, they stole her crown. She was not super crazy about that, but she was going to let it go until the humans used the crown to completely destroy the surrounding ecosystem, flooding out forests and doing all sorts of other terrible things. And so what she did in retribution was to flood most of the world. And so the remains of humanity live on a tiny island, which used to be a mountaintop. And away on the horizon, you can see the temple, the Deep Queen's temple, and you still have this crown. And you know that if you can get the crown back to the Deep Queen, that maybe, or you suspect that if you got it back to her, that maybe there would be some forgiveness for the sins of the past. I guess the other thing is that the only reason the entire world hasn't been flooded is that your ancestors figured out that if they took someone to the temple and sacrificed them once every 20 years, that the queen wouldn't quite flood up to the top of that last mountain. That you could keep going. And so for a long time, that was the way that things worked. Every 20 years, someone got sacrificed, and the queen didn't flood the world. But for your grandparents, I guess, were part of the first generation where folks got a better idea. Just take the crown, try and break back into the temple, go all the way to the bottom of it to return the crown. And if someone dies, well, then the sacrifice has been made for the year, and you don't need to worry about it. Everyone else can leave, and then send a new group in 20 years later. So we're starting with the 3rd generation here. We've had 2 previous generations, and they were unsuccessful in returning the crown. But some of their learnings and possessions have passed on to their children and grandchildren. So we have 2 returning players who are playing new characters, and let's introduce them. Down on this side, did I get it right? Yeah, I did. Yep. I did. Yeah. Andy, who are you bringing to the table today?
Hi there. I'm bringing Flank, daughter of Shank /Foot. Shall I list her stats? Is that a good idea? Okay.
Well, maybe I don't know that you need to list the stats, but if you think that would help in describing the character, then go for it.
Oh, sure. Well, I'll do all the flavor stuff then.
Yeah.
She is a 3rd generation warrior, which means she just gets this cool martial arts ability, which I want to do, which is when you have advantage on attacks, you may stunt and attack on the same turn, which sounds pretty cool, especially after Jared told me it's a bad idea to roll most of the time because you will likely die. And so I will try to use that. But in appearance, she is ripped, bald. They've all been bald. It's a very consistent family trait through these last 3 generations. She is ripped, bald, simply dressed, blunt-faced, short, with a booming voice, which I don't want. This will be booming so I don't irritate the people upstairs. For now, this will represent booming. And she has a passion for cooking. And she is all decked out. She's got a cudgel, iron scale armor, a shield. I finally get a shield, and a bow with 11 arrows. This lady is just prepared. I can't wait to play.
Nice.
All right, so that's amazing. Flank is obviously going to be representing the party martially. Now, I guess like as the generations go, like you're definitely better at fighting than your like rank amateur, first generation warrior. So maybe I was overstating the be very careful of combat and treat it as treat what happens outside and before combat as important as what happens in combat. But definitely think along those lines.
Will do. I
The
still
old
only have a
school.
strength of 2, so I a
Yeah.
strength bonus of 2.
That's not bad.
That's
The
not
strength
bad.
bonus of 2 is fine.
I will fight things smaller than myself. It will
Yeah.
be fine.
Who do we have directly below me?
Directly below you, you've got Ian Horner currently playing Womp Womp Crankor the Third. Womp Womp Crankor the Third. He's physically athletic. He's hirsutely curly. He is round in the face, and his build is tiny, but his speech is booming because we've decided this is what booming is, so as not to disturb the neighbors. And he has a real passion for craftsmanship.
Ooh.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm hoping we're going to see some crafting pretty soon. And Crankor is a third generation in a trade as well.
Third generation magician. So we have the Sandblast of level 1. We have the Arcanist, the ability to hopefully use a scroll more than once.
Ooh.
And level 3 gives us scribe abilities, which means I'm looking forward to a lot of sitting and resting around the fire while I take part in Scrimshaw and carve a standard pearl into a spell pearl.
Ooh.
Many magic pearls will be made. That's actually incredibly useful because having just the spell pearl you want when you need it is pretty helpful.
Really helpful.
So down on my other side, who should be over here, I did it.
Yep.
I did it
You
again.
did it.
Two for 2. We have joining us Matt. Matt, you are new to this game, but you are also going to be playing a third generation character, third generation sacrifice.
I am, yes. I forget what Kathleen's character's last name is, but my
Think well.
character's Quell?
Think well.
Quell. All right. I am
Think-
Rosa Bell
Think
Quell.
well.
Think well, yeah.
Thinkwell. I am Rosa Bell Thinkwell.
Beautiful.
I did not mean to make that rhyme.
Oh, it's so good though.
I want from a name.
Yeah. And Rosabelle is an academic. Rosabelle is willowy, has an impish pinched face, has rosy skin, a ponytail, some eccentric clothing, and is righteous, rude, and mumbles.
Nice. That's a good combination. I like righteous mumbling. That's
Yeah. Rosa is also tiny. So we just have a bunch of small people going out in question.
Oh, good.
Her passion is athletics. She's not particularly good at it, but she's going to carry around her harpoon and poke and prod if she has to.
Nice.
She also has the ability to possibly learn languages that are encountered down in these depths. And
Not that we've found that would be useful at all.
yeah. And has the ability Secret Seeker, which allows her to spend an action and make a wisdom or intelligence save. She's wiser than she is intelligent. She's actually fairly dumb. But on success, she can investigate a room without spending an exploration turn.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very neat. Okay, so something that I will mention as well, when you're all saying like my character's dumb or not strong or whatnot, keep in mind that like 0 is the sort of like rank human average. I guess in this system it's 1. 1 is the rank human average. So if you got a 2 in something, you're already like, better than most of the population by like a pretty wide margin.
Okay.
I mean, I have an 11 in intelligence. So
Yeah. So that's about human average. Pretty
yeah.
good. Not all academics have to be incredibly smart. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of righteous mumbling, and I'm like, that is the very definition of what I've been doing whenever I go downtown. I'm like, none of these other people are wearing masks.
Yeah.
That's
I was thinking of some professors I've actually encountered. In terms of knowledge.
Did they also
all right.
carry around harpoons?
only the best ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've your group has set off again from the island. It is always a both a sad and happy occasion when a new group of tributes, heirs, technically you're called heirs in the rule book, sets off toward the Deep Queen's temple. You row for a while, you sail for a while, you bail for a while, you do all the other things that you would expect to happen. What's a bad Andy? What's a bad thing that happens?
While rowing a boat?
Well,
Or-
you're going to an island that is about as far as the horizon.
Flank
What's a
Flank had to poop real bad. She had some bad seafood and got the runs halfway across in the boat, and it was very embarrassing. She had to stick her posterior out over the side. That was
okay,
not a
Matt?
good-
Can you make that worse, please? Can you worsen the situation?
I mean, does Rosabelle have an issue, or does Flank have more of an issue?
I think it's the party. The party has an issue. So
Okay.
we've found out this is the origin of it. What is stage 2?
Okay. Rosabelle didn't appreciate that, but also didn't appreciate being on the ocean. So the other side for Rosabelle is voiding itself on the other side of the ship.
Okay, so we've just got like massive, and Ian, your job here is to make not make it worse. What resolves the
darn.
situation as you are on your way to?
Yeah, you're ready to make it worse. No, well, let's take it in turn a bit here. Turns out that that whale sneeze happened, coating everyone in the whale sneeze, which thankfully was then washed off by a large wave cascading over the top of the boat. So the whale sneeze grabbed a hold of all of the unpleasant vomit from the front side of Rosabelle and any errant effluviant from the back side, contained it nicely within the mucus, and then it was washed away.
That's a really good whale. That's a good whale.
Yeah, it's always good when you get friends to sneeze on you.
All right. Well, after
Sneeze
your,
on me when you're not strong. And
after your eventful trip across the island, you find yourself at the entrance to the Deep Queen's temple, and down you go. The temple you descend a long staircase, and you find yourself in the same room that your ancestors found themselves in, and after a couple of flights of stairs, you come down to this large circular room. There's light able to sort of percolate through the ceiling. So light comes because this whole dungeon is essentially under the water. The light is able to come down and somehow go through the water and then through the seafloor and then down into the dungeon below. So you get that sort of wonderful, wavy, watery light everywhere that you go. So you can see that the room that you start in has 4 exits, one of which is the stairs that you've just come down. So 3 others, one directly ahead of you, one to your left, one to your right. And all around are these little channels that water runs through, all through the dungeon. So some of them are very small, some of them are a little bit bigger. They are in all the walls. They're in the ceilings. They're in the floors, and water sort of runs through them. Now, most of the time, the water stays in the channels. It's there, like 1 centimeter across on the floor. You step on them, and there's water running beneath you. You can hear it all the time. It's always moving. It's always affecting the light. But in general, it's not. It hasn't. It's not something that's actually getting you wet all the time. So unless I tell you like you're knee deep in water in this room or whatnot, there's water always around, but you are not kind of in it. Yeah. So as you see that around the base of the staircase, there's circular bubble-like patterns, and they kind of glow dimly as you walk over them. And you see that actually this is generally true as you walk through the dungeon, at least this part of it. Everywhere that you step, there's sort of a soft glow, which might be reflections from the light above, reflecting through and throughout the water, or it might just be some sort of magical effect associated with the temple itself.
I want to apologize again for the incident on the boat. I'm sorry.
No, nothing to apologize for. We're all clean now. We're all smelling fresh, and as fresh as one can from a walk like that. But boy, where do we go? Does anyone remember anyone telling us where directions?
This is a good question. From the accounts of Rosabelle's grandmother and my father, it doesn't really matter where we go because the rooms keep changing.
So we may as well just go forward, right?
Okay.
As another programming note that I should mention, for those who did not tune in last time, and for Matt, who was not here last time, you literally remember things that your ancestors saw, did. You don't remember it in absolute detail. It's more just sort of like fleeting glimpses and whatnot. But because any creature that dies, basically sand pours out of it, which is like sort of like little orbs of glass pours out of it. You can ingest that. And if you do, you take on the memories and sometimes physical characteristics of that creature. So presumably what's happening with these heirs is you are actually ingesting the sand from all the previous generations. And so you're remembering things from all the previous generations. This is a really cute way of allowing metagame knowledge to go from one run to the other. But you can absolutely eat the sand of other creatures in the dungeon, and please do let me know if you do that. If you're not eating it immediately, I'm kind of assuming that it gets mixed in with other sand you might be carrying, and that after that it's more or less inert in that regard. But yeah, that's an option that you have. So straight ahead.
Well,
yeah, full steam ahead.
Yep, let's do it.
Sounds good.
So the room you go through, there's sort of a tunnel, passageway, hallway that you go through for a little while, and it opens into a room that is itself quite open and airy. In fact, the way that the sort of semi-transparent walls and the incredible amount of light coming in through the ceiling, it is actually it gives the impression of being sort of like open water, like scuba diving or something to that effect. I mentioned the little channels sort of running out of the walls and the ceilings and the floor in places. In this room, there are quite a few of those, and they're all sort of arrayed around the room, which is roughly speaking circular. There's 4 exits, including the one that you came in, so you could go left, right, or straight ahead from this room. And there's 3 of these fish-like people. They're kind of squat and slimy looking. They have bulbous eyes, and there's 3 of them against one wall, and they're standing on each other's shoulders. So there's like one, and then there's another one on top of it, and another one on top of that, and they have spears, but the spears are kind of like scattered. One of them's leaning against a wall. Looks like the other two might have been, and then like fell over or something. And they're like the top one is reaching into one of these channels, and they're sort of like talking to each other. They haven't noticed you yet as you walk through the door, but yes. And top one is like fishing around inside this roughly like arm sized, like not incredibly large channel, but it looks like it's trying to get something out of there.
I say we sneak up and take their spears. What say you?
Rosabelle?
I mean, if you want me to, I can probably do it.
Absolutely, then.
Okay, take
All
my
right.
harpoon.
I'll take it. I'll take the harpoon.
That's a good point.
Okay.
I've got my own harpoon to take care of.
So Rosabelle, you're gonna sneak up on these fish people and try and take the spears. I like this idea. I think that they're pretty distracted at this point too. They're not really checking where you're at. What are the other two of you gonna do?
We should hide. We should hide somewhere.
Good idea.
Yes.
It's a big open
not a lot-
room.
Yeah, not a lot of cover in this room.
We could we could do the opposite. We could make ourselves look very imposing. We could, as short and small as we are, we could like you do when you get up on a grizzly bear. We could just make ourselves look very big.
Okay, I could get up on your back, and then we could, yeah.
Yes,
Do what they're doing.
Absolutely.
exactly. Let's get up on my shoulders. Please
See
get
if you
up.
Get me to one of those channels, and I'll jam it with my harpoon.
Okay. So all right, Rosabelle.
Yep.
Why don't you make a sneaking roll? So make me a dexterity roll with advantage.
Ooh. Good,
Because
because the first one was a 1.
These fish are pretty distracted right now.
Okay. So with advantage, the good roll is a 7. I have a bonus of 5.
Okay. So you have a bonus of 5.
Yep, this is my good stat.
All right.
Wow.
So 12. Okay. Well, you sneak over to the fish, and you are just at the point of like reaching down to pick up one of the spears when the top one turns around and goes and the ones below it are like a little bit shocked by this, so they sort of like teeter a little bit, but they can't hold the top one because they're so precariously balanced, and their bodies are kind of slippery too. They're kind of slimy things.
Yeah.
And so they do this whole like whoa, and then like slip and fall, like something out of a Buster Keaton movie, but like a little bit more painful than Buster Keaton would have experienced in and of himself.
Flexible bones.
Yeah, well, they are fish, so they do a good job of that. So they, in some sort of very comic fashion, slither down each other and end up in a heap on the ground. Just as the two of you, sorry, who's on top? Who's climbing on top of who?
I'm a little bigger.
I
so-
am the top one.
Okay,
Tiny
so
one on top.
Crankcourt, can you make me a choose strength or dexterity and make me a save of that? To try and like pull this off in some sort of graceful manner.
That's a big no.
Okay, so
3 on the die.
okay, so that's fine. You like you sort of climb up, and you two are kind of tottering and looking really awkward, like, and not quite able to get balance, and maybe you're like going against the wall, and then like being like, no, it's okay, and then like you move away from the, but then no, it's really not okay, and you teeter and whatnot. So you're doing something pretty funny by the time Rosabelle turns around, but not really super effective and not intimidating in the way that you'd kind of hoped it would be. And meanwhile, the fish on the other side of the room have fallen into a heap. But they're obviously like, they're going to scramble around and try and right themselves and grab their spears. But if you want to do something before that, we can take that on too.
I want to say that Rosabelle, upon getting discovered and seeing them kind of comedically slump in a pile, pantomimes doing the same, just very dramatically, like, oh, I've slipped and fallen and now I'm on my back too, just to like try and diffuse the whole situation.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that is a thing that you can do. Why don't we roll initiative to see who is going to act next?
Okay.
So the way that it works in the system is you guys are going to roll a d6, and if you roll a 4, 5, or a 6, you get to go first. Otherwise, the other party gets to go first.
So is it just one of us that rolls that?
Just one of you rolls that.
Okay. I can right now. I'll do that.
Go
Please
for it.
do.
Actually, you're the most. Yeah, I should take initiative myself and tell you that you are the one in the most direct contact with the quote unquote adversaries. We don't know that they're adversaries, so you can go ahead and roll initiative.
I rolled a 4.
Okay, so you can act first. So all of you can act in whatever order that you wish.
Oh, thank
But
goodness.
I guess I will tell you, Rosabelle, it looks like the fish are feeling threatened and going for their weapons.
Okay. Rosabelle currently does not have her weapon, so she's going to lunge for one of their weapons as well.
Okay, you have the initiative
Okay.
here, so I think that it's totally valid that you could just grab one of their weapons if you wanted to.
Okay.
The way Knave works in a similar way to other Dungeons and Dragons like games, in that you have sort of a combat action, or like an attack action, and a sort of move action that also encompasses a lot of other things, like picking up a spear off the ground, or closing a door, or getting some item out of your inventory, or whatnot. So I'll say that you have the spear, and then you can still make any action that you want, including an attack.
I should actually ask before lunging for the spear. Hey team, do we want to try and fully defuse this or go full battle?
No time to talk. You grab that spear.
Okay, grab the spear. I'm gonna try and move to reunite with my peeps then.
Okay, so you grab the spear and run back to the situation that is unfolding behind you. All right, how does that situation resolve itself for Flank and Crankor? You're tottering a little bit. Where do you want to go from totter mode? Are you going to do something else, or are you going to continue trying to move across the room in some sort of gestalt movement pattern?
I this was kind of just a this was kind of an impromptu decision. This isn't something we practiced. I think we am I correct in saying we know better by this point to disengage?
I think so. If we were in full combat, I would opt to throw you at them. But as we are not, I would say, yeah, it's wise to disengage, and try to make it look cool and professional as much as possible.
Look, if you want to throw me out of character, if you want to throw me, this is absolutely the time to try and do it.
But I'm also, from a meta perspective, I'm also very curious as what they were getting into the cracks up there at. And if we start combat and just kill them now, we'll never find out the deep mysteries that Jer has constructed for us.
Jer has randomly rolled on tables.
So I hesitate to throw you. Maybe I could throw you some other time. Maybe knowing that we have this strategy of lifting each other up, that we can do this enough.
I think
I will.
This
I
might be a
will
special
I will
bond
say
between our
this.
families.
If you throw Crankor,
Mhm.
Crankor makes an attack, I will give Crankor advantage on that attack.
This sounds really
However,
fun.
if Crankor misses on that attack, there might be some consequences to being
You know-
thrown and not pulling it off.
Okay, well then what's going to happen is Flank is going to, as we teeter, Flank is going to look up into Crankor's eyes and make eye contact, and through say a close friendship that they've had since childhood, and try to go for the nod. Is like, do you want to do this? Is this happening?
I think we got to. It's the only way we're gonna get peace and quiet to find out what's in that hole.
All right. So ripped Flank, then as they teeters back and judos it into a sort of lean in and shot puts Crankor the Third at the closest, maybe the unarmed. Oh, what would be better, one of the armed fish people or one of the unarmed fish people?
Well, they're all in a heap on the ground right now. Like
They're
none
all
of them. The spear belonged to one of them clearly, but they still haven't had a chance to grab them yet. So
Okay, then
So
right
they're
on
all
that
unarmed.
pile. Just
dun, da, 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 dun. Dun,
Grabbing
da,
a
da, da,
dice
da.
tower here for a very important roll.
All right, Crankor, you may make an attack on, assuming that is what you're doing. You're not just landing and pirouetting on top of the fish people. You may make an attack on one of them with advantage.
That is my intent. I am not going to re-roll that die. It was an 11. So adding on my strength, because that is a harpoon I would be attacking with, that is a 12.
12, and you roll that twice because of advantage.
Oh, I'm sorry, because advantage. That's my... Yeah, no, that's the better roll.
12 is the better roll.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the fish are kind of on. They're on the ground and they're in a heap. So I'll let it go. Sure, you can do some damage to one of the fish.
Ooh, hooray. Let me see. I don't get to use this one very often.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, no, you totally hit it. There we go. That's the stat block I was looking for.
That is an 8 on a 1d10.
Okay.
Piercing
So
style.
and sorry, you're using a spear or a javelin or a harpoon, right? I
Harpoon,
remember
yeah.
it being a spear-like implement. Okay, so this goes off in potentially the best way that you can expect it to. You fall from the heavens like Odin and impale a fish person on your spear, and so it's just like sort of flopping its way around trying to get up, and the spear goes right through it into the ground. It goes and sand comes out of its orifices. And the other two look pretty disturbed by this. And so I think the other two, actually, I have die rolls that I can make for this. They are, they are grabbing their spears, and they are, unfortunately, they're on sort of either side of you. So they're kind of like exchanging glances with each other, like I don't know, I don't know, meet up later, kind of thing. And they're taking off in opposite directions away from you to the doors on the other two sides of the room. So yeah, one bolts to the nearest door on the left, one bolts to the nearest door on the right, because neither of them wants to go through the giant but yet very small magician who just vaulted at one of their friends. Let's roll initiative again.
Okay.
So I nominate Crankor as the most active person that round to roll initiative
Coming at
for
you.
the group.
6.
Okay, so 6 means you get to keep your initiative. You get to continue going first. So
Fantastic.
so they're like,
I don't care what else is happening. I'm immediately reaching down with that hand, scooping up some sand, and then just...
okay, you're just eating all the sand.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Hungry boy.
Oof.
You couldn't wait until after.
We got to find out where they're going.
Okay.
Right.
So, so you scoop it up and you start to get all of these weird weird sensations and memories. Memories of being sort of raised from a small creature in a hatchery in a school of like many other small fish creatures, and like all squirming around squamously all over the ground, and lots of eating like garbage and pond scummy stuff, and a lot of like not understanding what's going on around you.
This is a normal adolescence so far.
And a lot of fear, just a lot of sensations of fear. Um, maybe you get one. Maybe you have a fond memory of there was a dog otter that a daughter. Actually, you know in character what daughters are. They're dog otter hybrids. They're very friendly, happy creatures. Of basically, maybe you have a memory of finding like a dead daughter that was like only partially decomposed, and it was a delicious, yummy treat that you got to take back to mommy and daddy, and they were very proud of you for that. So Crankor has acquired a mutation, and that is cowardly. So
What
remember,
a switch!
I've
Flying
talked
through
about-
the air with a spear. It's a very
Fearlessly
yeah, it all depends on what you
eating the
fly at.
remains.
So you've acquired cowardly. Now this you'll recall that at some point in the past, in the last session, I mentioned morale rolls. You only roll morale when you run away from something, and if you fail, then I roll a random number, and you end up that many rooms away, and you don't know how you got there, because you were just running away with such fear. So cowardly gives you a -1 penalty on morale rolls.
Oh, okay.
now
perfect.
but this is interesting because I'm a warrior and I have tactical retreat. You and your allies don't have to make a morale check when playing.
Aha!
Huh.
So
Wow.
that makes up for it. And you're sweating. You notice that your sweat feels kind of a little slimy. It just feels like a little bit. A little
Ew.
bit. I don't know. It's like did it always kind of do that?
I mean,
Did it always like make a little trail there?
we never did have we never did have a chance to really clean off after the after that boat ride with the mucus and whatnot.
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
Must be it. That must be it. Well, that didn't work, but
Okay, so Crankor's just mowing on the sand. Flank and Rosabelle. The fish are basically they're on their way out. They are failing their morale checks. They're going to end up 1dx rooms away and not know how they got there pretty soon. Unless you want to do something else to try and interact with them, they're just panicking and fleeing.
I'm afraid they're gonna go get
Rosabelle.
help.
Sorry?
I'm afraid they're going to go get help, get reinforcements if we don't stop them.
Okay, yeah.
Hmm.
Rosabelle has one of their spears.
Mhm.
And a thing that you do with the spear is throw it.
Sure, yeah, that's a thing I hear that you do with a spear.
So she's going to throw it at one of them.
That sounds like a good idea. So this is like throwing a spear is not like throwing a javelin, and it's not like throwing like a rock or whatever. I think you're gonna have to get a little closer to you're gonna have to like run over to the fish so you're a little closer, and chuck it from like 10 feet away kind of thing to get a good shot at it.
Okay.
As I say, the fish is fleeing in panic. It is not. It's not going to take an attack of opportunity or whatever at you. But you're going to have to get close to get a good shot at it. So
I'm fine with
assuming
doing
you're
that.
okay with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just do the full sprint. Maybe you like stop and like hop on your back foot and do the Athenian chuck. Or possibly something less graceful if you choose. And make me an attack.
This is on wisdom, I believe, because it's ranged.
Yeah. So, sorry, I should have mentioned that a ranged attack uses wisdom in this system. So there's that. I'm actually going to give you advantage. It's not paying close attention. It's not protecting itself. It's not trying to dodge. It's just fleeing in panic.
So far, on the 4 rolls I've had on this die, I rolled a 1, I think a 7, a 2, and a 4. So my wisdom for this is 4 plus 2, so 6.
Okay, so the spear is going to clatter down the hall in front of it.
Yeah.
I recommend that you find certain other game systems that are based on classic Dungeons and Dragons, the ones where rolling low is really good, and you promote that die to use in one of those systems because it would be amazing at playing one of those. Okay, that's cool. And Flank, did you want to do anything?
Yes, I want to use my bow and arrow. I'm going to
Aha.
to just take that out real cool, like from my back, and fire an arrow at the other one.
Yeah, I like it.
Is retreating, and so that's a damage 1/6. So do I roll a 20 to see if I hit? How does
You need
this-
to you roll a d20 and add your wisdom modifier to see if you hit.
Okay, come on, please. An 8 and a 1.
I'll give you
wisdom.
advantage.
Oh,
I gave
advantage?
Rosabelle advantage, so I'm going to give you advantage too. That's only fair.
You're a benevolent god. Here we go. I rolled an 18 with a 1 wisdom. That's a 19.
Aha, that'll do it. Okay. The arrow pierces its back. Make me a damage roll.
Throwing magicians and slinging arrows. Here we go. Okay, damage. So I'm going to, I think, because I would ideally like to maybe, because if Rosabelle Thinkwell has inherited some of her mother's language skills, maybe we can talk to this thing. So I'm going to ideally try to incapacitate this guy.
I don't think that's really something that is easy to do with a bow and arrow.
And I'm trying to kill him dead. I'm going to try to kill him through his
I'm
little
not
fish
saying-
brain.
I think that you're just going to have to let the dice speak to whether or not you can shoot someone with a bow and know that they're going to be okay afterwards.
That's a good point. Okay, well, here we go. I rolled a 3.
Okay,
Average.
that does not kill it.
Okay.
So you manage to wing it, and it sort of like staggers, and it's got a big old arrow sticking out of it, with some fish guts all over the wall, and it does not look. It looks like a pretty bad flesh wound, but it is a flesh wound. There's a lot of flesh, so yeah, it's not quite dead. That being said, it is still going to run from you. So if you want to chase it into the next room, you could do that. But it is going to use its action to just get the heck out and run down the hallway. I'm going to say that it is running out of the hallway that was to the right of you as you entered this room.
Okay, so that would be the west door.
Yep, the western hallway.
I'm not sure I want to run after this person without my other 2 compatriots, because this is such a dangerous, unknowable place.
Well, it's going to take its action to run away, and then your next action, basically your whole turn was pulling out the bow and then shooting.
Right. Well, then what I will do is I will shout at it in my big booming voice. Remember that. Tell them where it came from.
That sounds really good, actually. Okay. It lets out just this horrendous, shrieky, like it's not like a fish oriented sound necessarily, but it's definitely bubbly, fleshy, blood curdly, like, and you're pretty sure it got the message.
Excellent.
Wow. It's going to use its action to run into the next room, and otherwise run away. And then we can, if pursuing is something that you are interested in doing, then the other one is also running out the other way. I guess that would be the south exit. If you want to pursue either of them, we can stay in initiative, or we can drop out if you prefer.
I think we should take out at least one of them.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, that I'm up for that then. Then I suppose that shall we pursue the arrowed fish?
Yeah.
So it
south?
won't remember that for long.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we roll initiative first,
Okay.
and see
Good call.
whether you go first, whether you continue to go first. So Flank, go ahead, or Andy, go ahead and roll initiative this time. You're looking for
You
a
can call
4,
me
5, or
Flank.
6.
I'm good with that.
All
I
right.
like character
Flank.
names. I rolled a 2.
All right. So actually, in this case, you've lost initiative. So this is one of the things that can happen in the system as well. And it's nice that it's happening in this sort of like non-threatening situation. You're not like being attacked by a giant monster that just attacked you when you go from you winning initiative to it winning initiative, and it takes another action before you get to act. So they're gonna run yet farther away from you. Again, before you get to act. But the upside is that maybe you will get to take 2 actions in a row now.
Okay.
That looks like they've gone too far.
Excellent.
All right.
Come, one gooey friend and other friend. Let us pursue the fish.
Fine, Nick. All right.
All right.
Actually, Andy, do you want to take a shot first?
Oh. Oh, I see. So where are we now? Are we in the same big open room, or have they left out? Are we...
So that fish was definitely running out of the room, and there's some hallway between. I'll give it a 50% chance that it's still like it doesn't really have much presence of mind right now. So I'll give it a 50% chance that it hasn't deked out the side. So it's in the next room, but maybe you have a sight line on it still.
Okay, well then I
let's
definitely
see.
want to shoot that fish again.
Maybe you do. You do not. You don't have a sight line. So it's in the next room, and it's deked out of the way a little bit.
Shoot.
Then we'll have to take chase.
Okay, so you're
Let's
you're
go!
chasing after the one with the arrow in it. Great. I like that. I like that idea. So you come. You like give. Basically, go all out, running after this thing, and you come into a. Whoop. Right. All right. So you're going to come into a room that is not so much a room as a cave, and it's a little bit squidgy. There's a lot of mud huts and like stacked up little edifices. There are. It looks like some food storage areas, but the food storage is really not very good. It's like it's a pile of mud with a hole dug in it, and like there's scraps of rotting food and whatnot stuck in it. And can I, as you're all boldly running into the room, get all of you to make a dexterity saving throw, please. I believe it's dexterity. I'm just going to do a quick check on that. Roll a d20, and I'll tell you what to add to it in a second. Yes, it is a dexterity save. Oh, or a strength save, whichever one is better.
So that's just the roll plus our bonus?
Yep.
That is a roll plus your bonus, yeah.
Okay.
I rolled
11.
13.
16.
Okay, you don't actually need to tell me the results. It's a pass if you beat a 15, or 50 if you have a 15 or better.
Oh,
Okay.
Failure.
So if you passed, you're fine. But you do notice that there is this like weird seaweed, like curtain of semi-transparent seaweed that appears to be arrayed around this entrance that you are coming in through, and it's coming down. It's kind of in like a curtain, but it's all over this side of the room, opposite where the huts and food storage and other unknown things that are maybe indiscernible to your non-fishy minds. Aside from actually Crankor, you know what all of them are for and what they all do.
Oh, great.
You know what they're for. You know, like worshiping the Deep Queen, and for scraping together tributes for the dolphin people who come by and you know take your stuff all the time. If you give them some choice cuts of fish guts and things like that, they'll leave you alone and such things. Anyway, so there is this kind of curtain of sticky seaweed, and if you have failed, and I believe you said, sorry, it was Rosabelle and Flank, you both failed.
I succeeded.
Okay, Rosabelle succeeded. It's just Flank who's stuck. You
Also
are
stuck.
stuck. Oh, it's okay. So the two of you are stuck in the seaweed. You are essentially grappled by it and unable to move. Also in this room, you see that the room is actually populated. So the fish person appears to have run into one of the huts, but standing outside the huts are 4 other fish people, and they're looking at you in a not incredibly charitable regard, as one of them has just run through with an arrow sticking out of it and seeming very panicked, and there was a lot of shouting coming from the next room. Yeah, so one of them is let me see here. DM loading time. So yeah, the three of them have cudgels, but one of them has a spear, similar to the spears that you liberated from the other three. And I think probably a good idea to stay in initiative, actually, because I think some combat might happen. So could I? Oh, also stuck in the seaweed is a daughter. The one of the otter dogs that I mentioned to you earlier. There's actually a pretty good picture of them somewhere, I seem to recall. If you look at the picture of the fisher, the fisher profession, he's got a little daughter next to him.
Okay.
Little otter dog friend.
Very good.
So there's a daughter that's also stuck in the seaweed, and it looks like maybe the previous activity of this room was that the fish person with the spear was antagonizing the daughter that was caught in the seaweed. Normally, Crankor, it's your feeling that you would be very afraid of a daughter. They're very big and they have very good meat, but they're big and scary, and they've got big teeth, and that makes it pretty difficult to take them down. But when they're caught in seaweed like this, they're pretty easy to. They're potentially something that you could take down and eat, and that would be delicious. So, Rosabelle, you haven't rolled initiative for a while. Go ahead and make me a roll, please.
All right. That's a 5.
Okay. 5 is good. That means you are going to be the next ones to act. So what would you like to do?
Rosabelle would like to yank her harpoon away from, I believe, Crankor was the one who took it.
I had it.
No, this is my own harpoon.
Yep.
Yeah, I was holding your
Anyway,
harpoon for you.
take the harpoon away, just like mumble under her breath, "Oh, you idiots," and like try to cut them out of the seaweed with the harpoon.
Okay. Harpoon is not really like a cutting instrument. I don't feel like that's gonna be a really great tool for cutting the seaweed. It's more just gonna move it around a bunch. And you also realize that like this stuff's really sticky. Like if you like just sticking the harpoon in, you're like, oh wow, I gotta like pull pretty hard to actually get the harpoon out again after that. It's all like spider webby. What do the other two of you want to do?
What can
I think
gosh, it's a bad situation.
How high is the room right now?
I'll say it's about. These rooms are pretty open still. This one is a little bit more small and confined. So maybe like 15 feet high. There's still a lot of ambient light, and it still feels like pretty roomy. But as this dungeon level goes, it's pretty confined.
Can I just go slack and see if my new slimy perspiration allows me to helpfully kind of start to slide out of these bonds?
Sure. You can try and wiggle and slime your way out. I don't know that that's going to be as effective as you want it to be, but we'll call it a dexterity save to try and get out.
Give it a try.
Even while it's kind of like an anti-dexterity save.
Yep, nope. That's a 7. So that's a failure.
Okay. So the and then flank. Anything that you'd like to do?
How are we like stuck full bodied like a web? Is this like spread eagle just wriggling, or are we just kind of caught up in it?
You're caught up in it. So if you wanted to, if one of the fish was to come close enough to you to like to come in range of a melee weapon, you could take a slash at it or whatnot. But it doesn't look like they're really going to do that, or they're really crazy about doing that right now.
Right.
You've also got this daughter that is kind of panicking, and it's crying and making all sorts of like kind of semi-adorable dog-like sounds. It doesn't look like it's super focused on you right now, even though you're kind of caught up with it though, because it's been stabbed at least once by the fish person with a spear. So it's more focused on that.
Okay, well then I will try to think very quickly and try to release not myself, but the daughter, who I know has been stabbed by one of these fish people, and as it is sort of intimidating, is probably going to be out for revenge. So I'm going to try to release this daughter with I don't really have many. Well, I have a drill. I don't
Okay.
know. That's one of my random item rolls. I don't know if that's
mean,
really
like,
cutting though.
I'm not going to say that
Yeah.
you necessarily need a piece of equipment to help the daughter. You can try and help it find its way out, or you can try and help it brute force its way out. It's certainly going the brute force route.
Okay, well then I will try to, because I have a highest bonus. Well, I also have a dex bonus as well. But I'm going to try to assist this daughter to liberate it, while I'm whispering in its ears,
Go kill those who have harmed you.
into its ear.
and hoping it picks up on that. There are like
Yeah.
trained daughters. Training daughters is a thing, but this one maybe not as trained. But you can always hope that it picks up some of that. Maybe it ate some people sand too, and if it
True,
did that,
yeah.
maybe it's slightly more understanding. In any
Maybe
case,
they'll eat anything.
how are you assisting it? Are you like trying to rip some stuff out around it? Are you describe to me what you're doing?
I'd say so. If it's caught up around, if it's entangled in it, whatever it was worrying and working on, I will try to, because I'm ripped. I will try to rip it apart so as to liberate my new daughter friend
Okay.
into
So-
the world and create more chaos.
Why don't you make a strength save for me?
Will do.
That seems like a good way of resolving that.
Come on, die, make my bullshit work. 17. Oh, with
17.
A strength bonus of 2 is a 19.
All right, so you do manage to tear away some of the seaweed around one of the otter's paws, or one of the daughter's paws. That it was like, close to getting out. You just go and the daughter's paw is released. I'm gonna like. One of the things about the initiative system in this game is that it kind of assumes that there's always two sides to any conflict, which is interesting because here I feel like there's kind of three sides. I'm just gonna like make a quick roll to see whether the daughter goes before or after the fish people. Okay, so it's gonna go before, and so it's gonna tear its way out of the seaweed, and it is mad. Not a happy daughter. So it is going to growl, and it's going right after the one with the spear. So it's gonna make an attack. Definitely hits, and it is biting. That's interesting. So it flies out of the seaweed and right into the shoulder of the fish with the spear, and it just grabs it with its teeth, and it starts like. And Crankor, this is like everything that you have ever feared in your life. This is like you have worried you every time that you think about, you have nightmares about a daughter doing this to you. It's and. You think of a pit bull grabbing onto you, but imagine if that pit bull had like a cute little otter tail. It
So much
affixes
worse.
itself in a weasel-like manner to the fish, which it is like larger than as well, and does some like serious damage. Fish slime and guts and whatnot coming out of it. The fish are then going to turn their attention away from their easy prey stuck in the seaweed towards the daughter, and the ones with cudgels are going to swing at it. Uh, jumping back and forth between two monsters. So I've got 2 hits with cudgels. 8. So yeah, poof, poof, poof. The daughter takes a couple of hits. It gives a little doggy like as the cudgels come down on its head. It does not look too. It looks a bit beaten up by that. Definitely appears to be hurt. And then the one with the spear is gonna take that and try and jab it into the side of the daughter that is mowing on its shoulder. But it does not succeed at doing that. It wings it past it and doesn't manage to impact it. Let's roll initiative.
Who's up?
Crankor, I think it's your turn.
That's a 2, which I believe is low.
Yeah. So the enemies are going to get to go first, or the non-U's are going to get to go first.
Sorry, friends.
That's okay.
That is going to start with the fish. So I have 3 with their cudgels. They're trying to get the daughter off of the 4th one. All of them miss, so that's nice. And then the one with the spear also misses. So the fish win initiative, but they succeed at doing absolutely nothing to improve their situation. And they're looking like pretty flighty already. Like I don't know, like one of them is being attacked and is taking some damage, but things aren't the worst. But they're already looking like they might be ready to beat it for the hills, even though this is obviously where they live. Maybe it's a good strategy to go hide in one of the huts. Maybe they could run to the next room. Maybe whatever. The daughter is gonna like finish the work that it started with its first attack, and it's gonna go. It's gonna release the shoulder of the fish and go right for its arm, its spear arm. So the daughter lunges over, grabs the spear arm of the fish, and just picks it up and starts flipping it over like on the ground as like a cascade of sand just starts flying everywhere from this fish. And that brings us to your initiative. That again, this new group of fish, as you've grown to appreciate from previous encounters, is just like staring like, maybe they're not going to stick around for much longer.
Wow, this has gone a lot better than I thought it was gonna go already.
Yeah. Flank, you have a bow.
I have I have a bow, but I'm also still caught up in the slime.
What we also
the
have,
seaweed, rather.
what we have that we didn't have before is a distraction.
Yes.
And it might be time for us to maybe get out of here to find a different place to explore to find things that won't kill us.
Good idea. I think that's a good idea. So I think I'd like to get out of this seaweed. Can I?
So, yeah, you can make another save, strength or dex, whichever is your preference. If you want to take your whole round to do it instead of like trying to do it as like just one action, I'll give you advantage on that check.
Great. Okay. Well, I guess I'll do that so I can hightail it out of here with my friends. Okay. Yeah. That's a 17. I like that. I'll take that.
All right. So you're disengaged from the seaweed, but that's basically taking your turn to get you to that state.
Okay.
Okay. I should probably do the same then, actually. Yeah. I will attempt to struggle free myself.
Okay. Yeah. So same deal. Go ahead and make a strength or dex save, whichever one is the best. And you can have advantage if you want to spend your whole round doing it.
I do, because that was a 14 and that's a 3, so that is a no on both accounts of me.
All right, so Crankor is still stuck inside the seaweed. Rosabelle, what would you like to do?
Do the thing Crankor tried to do to Crankor, but try and do it successfully.
Okay,
better.
Sure. You can try and assist Crankor in disengaging. Go ahead and make a strength or dex save, whichever you want to. Well, I guess it would just be a strength save in your case to try and disengage Crankor from the seaweed.
That's a strength?
I think so.
Okay.
Like I feel like it's probably more a strength thing, unless I guess you could also like give Krenkor directions, be like, oh well, I think this strand is like maybe grabbing you a little bit more than this strand. Oh, actually this one is bearing a lot of the load that so maybe if you wanted to make it a wisdom save instead.
I rolled a 15, so I think I would have succeeded either
You're
way,
gonna
but
pass
I
on
want
any
it.
save, yeah.
I want it to be wisdom, and I just want to be so condescending the entire time to Crankor.
Oh.
Like, you idiot, that's the strand, that's the problem. Get that one.
Ah, yeah. That dog, though.
Are you slimier than you were before? Like, what is going on with you?
It's this dog here. Not a fan.
Krenkor, mysteriously afraid of daughters. Why don't you folks roll initiative again, please?
All right. Who?
And I think Flank's turn this time.
Blank's turn. Okay. Come on, a 2.
It's a 2. All right. So the fish are going to get to go first. They are going to take another shot at knocking out this daughter. They're gonna deal with the problem. They're gonna avenge their fallen comrade. They are going to. Okay, so one of them actually manages to he swings the cudgel and then realizes the cudgel's not there because the cudgel is caught in the seaweed. So it does not manage to do anything effective. But the one that hits it plants a nice solid hit on the daughter again, and again causes another yelp. And the daughter like looks at it, but it's still got the body of the other fish in its mouth. And then the daughter is just gonna hightail it. It's got the fish. It's going to keep the fish, but it's taking off out of the room, and it's going to go to the directly out the exit directly opposite the. Actually, I need to look at my notes for a second. This room has only 3 exits, so that one. So it's going to go south. There are exits out of this room to the north and south.
I
And
don't know
this-
about.
We entered from the north to this room?
You entered from the east into this room. This room
yeah.
was to the west of the previous room that you were in.
I don't know about y'all, but I think we should follow that dog. Daughter.
I'm up for that. Having a cool, noble daughter friend, I think would the more the merrier in the party.
Well, and at the very least, it's probably the direction that the fish are not going to want to go for a while.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
smart. Very good.
All right. So you can.
On the way out, I will grab some of that good fish sand. Just input and just pocket it. I'm not
All
gonna
right.
eat it.
You scoop up some sand. The amount of sand. I need to actually look up how much sand that you get per creature. I know that it's in here somewhere. But yeah, you scoop up a bunch of sand,
Cool.
and you grab some on your way out as you run past the fish. The fish, they see that you're out of the seaweed and they're like, and then they're like pleasantly surprised that you're not coming for them, and they are gonna continue, be a little bit freaked out. So you head you head south into another room. Now this room, it is very curious. Remember I said that the walls and ceiling of this room are kind of semi-transparent. This one is even stranger in that regard, in that it has like a ship that in it, like a sunken ship that is kind of suspended between the ceiling and the floor. So the bow of the ship is embedded in the floor, and the stern is embedded in the ceiling, and the ship itself sort of is arrayed between those two. And then those of you who had, well, I guess all of you had ancestors who came through a room very much like this before. This is sort of a distinctive thing in your memories. You kind of remember, yeah, there was like something to do with the ship, and there were dolphin people who were really mean, and there was maybe a treasure box inside the ship, I think you saw, but you never got to find out what was in it because the dolphins, something about the dolphins, it was bad. It was bad news.
I don't like dolphins that much these days.
So the daughter heads into this room, and it is, I think it's gonna go, or well, as you come into the room after it, it is sort of like running around behind the ship. It's kind of afraid because there's someone running after it, so it's kind of trying to suss out what you're gonna do. It's like looking around the side of the ship, like trying to see what's up with these people who are chasing it. And like as you sort of as that situation kind of sinks in, you feel this rumbling, sort of like a it's a rumble. It's kind of like a minor earthquake, and you feel a sense of motion that's coming through this room. I'm just gonna check here. So this room has 2 exits. The other exit is opposite you, and you get the sense that the rumbling is coming from behind you, from the direction that you just came from.
We should get to a corner.
Yes, agreed. Another sea snake, probably.
All right, so you're just gonna like sort of sidle around behind, or sorry, I bumped my microphone. I apologize for any loud noises. You're sidling around beside the door, essentially, or like off into the corners of this room. Okay.
Yeah, I think in that direction.
All right. A huge wave comes through the room, and this is like sort of a tsunami-like situation where it just like it comes through, enters, very much fills up the room, and then just like moves on through. And I'm going to need all of you to make strength saves. I just need to figure out whether or not you have disadvantage to that, to stop from being caught up in the water. But you can go ahead and make the first roll at any rate.
Okay.
Failure.
Oh, you don't
I
even
hope
get a
the
saving
daughter's
throw.
okay.
You don't even get a saving throw. I apologize. So yeah,
Gave
you're
us
all just
hope
gonna
when you took it away.
Yep, I'm sorry. You are gonna get caught up in the wave, and it is going to start taking you south. But in the process, you're gonna take some damage as well. You're gonna whap into like doorways and things that are in the midst and whatnot. Those of you who have the presence of mind to like look and see what the daughter is doing, it seems to actually like be sort of semi-adapted to like swim through this current and like ride the wave. You are not. You are land creatures that are not well served by this. So you are going to get taken south by the wave, and you're all going to take 3 points of bludgeoning damage as the and potentially it's like slight drowning damage, like only like a little bit drowning damage, but you know, like undertow and suffocation as the wave carries you along, and into another room that you are only going to like kind of barely see. So you go through a room. Oh, Crankor, this is like this is the sex room. This is a good place to be in. It's the spawning room. There's lots of eggs everywhere. There are fish people doing nasty, horrible things that are actually beautiful and wonderful because they create more fish. So that's an interesting place to be. Thankfully, because of all of the eggs and other soft things that are around here, you're not going to take too much damage as you go through here.
It's a shame I don't have time to help.
It's at this point, though, that you realize that there are other creatures in this wave with you, and that those creatures are dolphin people. the so there's four of them that are kind of just like riding the wave. They're surfing, but they're surfing along with it, and they see you, and they're gonna start poking at you with weapons. So thankfully, like it's still pretty hard for them to attack you as you are riding this wave. So I'm gonna give them disadvantage on these attacks.
A lot is
Fun.
happening.
Yeah, it has been
This is-
non-stop since we.
This is one of the things that I have noticed in this adventure is that like there is a lot happening all the time. As I was like pre-rolling rooms because I was trying to save on load time, I was like, whoa, some of these rooms just have quite a bit going on. Okay, so Crankor does a 15 hit you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're going to take a spear in the side for 5 points of damage.
Cool, I die.
All right. So yeah, Crankor spits sand as a dolphin person impales him with a spear, and the rest of you get to ride along for a couple more rooms. So you go through the sex room and into a room with a bunch of sheets of hanging seaweed with some crabs wandering through it. And again, you're only going to get a vague impression of this as you are buffeted around by the wave and take one more point of damage, and then get swept into one last room. And that is a room with a bunch of rocks and small gull, like dog-sized seagulls. These are called gulchers. You definitely know of them. They are problems. They like to steal things from people, and they are like items and shiny things from people, and they are pretty vicious if you get too close to them, but they're also kind of skittish, so they don't like to get that close to people. Anyway, this is where the wave leaves you, is in this room with all these things, or with the seagull creatures. As this begins to happen, or as the wave leaves, you see that everything around you, the water or around you is actually coming out of the impressions in the ground and is slowly starting to fill up the temple. And you remember this being the sign that the sacrifice has been made, and it is probably time to vacate if you value your lives.
I say we do that. This has been one
Yeah.
crazy visit to the temple, and if we can get out of here with maybe some of Crankor's sand or something, can we salvage anything from his body?
I mean, like it's basically like somehow one of Crankor's items is going to get back, and you know there's going to be some sand. But I don't think that there's going to be enough sand to pass the mutation on down his line, which is potentially for the best. Yeah, the other two of you can handily beat an escape out of the temple and back to town, where you go on to have a happy life and spend many years telling the young people of the village of all of the horrible things that you found in the Deep Queen's Temple, that time that you were sent over as a sacrifice.
Gosh. And flank.
Flank will sing the glory of Crankor III and how he flew through the air and stabbed a fish man.
That was amazing.
I try to
That's the one
blubber
cool
out.
thing we did.
In my last breath, I try to blubber out. Take the whole.
Ooh. Can we do that? Or
Yeah.
is it-
So, Ian, you actually get to choose which item comes forward from Crankor. So, which item gets recovered.
happening.
So, yeah. All right. So, I think this is a good time. We're at about halfway through our session. So, this is a good time to take a break, and we can reconvene on the other side of that with new characters, and take another try. That felt that last room was a situation where I was just like, this is too hard. This is too like it's
Too
one of those
much.
things in roguelikes where sometimes it's sometimes you just encounter something that's too scary, but it's like, yeah, 4 dolphin people, I think that ugh. Anyway, trying to play it as it goes, but it's that's tough. But let's go on to the next generation, take a bit of a break, and roll some ads, roll some music. I might relocate to a different room in my house. I'm going to say goodnight to my daughter, and I will catch you all in a few minutes. Welcome back. Hello. We are here post-mortem, literally. The end of another unsuccessful run. But we've learned a few things. We've fought a few things. We've seen some new stuff, so that's cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about how this adventure works from a GM's perspective, as I know that some of the players are still working on their characters. So the way that this works is it assumes that the dungeon master is going to roll up a room every time that the players go into a new room, that you're going to roll it up fresh. And I've actually pre-generated a bunch of rooms to try and stop having to show a load indicator every time I make a bunch of rolls, because the way that the encounter tables work is that there can be nested stuff. So there can be a room that has an encounter, that has an item, that has a thing, and each one of these is ends up being a different table that you roll on. There's some stuff in this that's a little bit mean. The way that the encounter table works is there's some encounters that are on just the level that the heirs are on, and there's some that actually exist on every level. And you basically roll on both those tables for every room, and you combine the results. So you have the potential to hit a situation like the wave that is untiered, and can just wipe out a party like that. And that's kind of a feel bad. But it does, I think it is true to the sort of random roguelike, you sometimes just get bad luck element of the game. But sometimes it feels a little unfair. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And the other thing that I've realized with rolling up a bunch of rooms all in a row is that sometimes, and this was sort of mentioned, sometimes there's just a lot. Sometimes you have a room that's description indicates that it has like X creatures in it, and then you roll an encounter for the room and there's like 3 more creatures, and then you roll on the other encounter table and it indicates that you have 2 more sets of creatures, and you're just like, oh, there's too much going on. And part of the fun of it is to try and say, okay, so you've got like a this and a couple of these and whatever, and what is the situation in this room, what's going on. But it does get to a point where it seems a little bit ridiculous. And at some point, I think exercising, I've been trying to like give it a pretty fair shake to say, this is I'm gonna just let the dice fall where they may and see what happens and see how fun it is. At some point I will start making tweaks to it, to try and make things a little bit more fun for my personal tastes or for the taste of the group, because you learn things, but I want to try it as written first to see sort of what the raw experience is, and the raw experience is sometimes pretty brutal, as we've discovered.
Yeah, yeah.
How are we
So-
doing with
Enjoying
those?
myself so far.
Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry.
Oh.
So someone mentioned that Clarabelle, or sorry, Rosabelle, so many bells, inherited a bit of the linguistic skills of the previous academic.
Yes.
What
So-
were those?
Oh, the linguistics. You didn't learn any languages, if that's what you mean. It's just the ability to learn languages.
Okay, I thought Kathleen may have learned a bit of a language.
No. So, yeah, you can spend your rest studying a language that you've recently encountered. Note, you don't like actually need to like sit with a creature that knows the language and like chat with it. It's a little bit more abstract than that. It's just like if you've run into the fish people, you can spend a rest to try and understand their language, and after 2 rests like that, you can speak it. So, I don't believe those languages get passed down. But
Okay.
you do have the capability of learning the languages, which can help your individual runs.
All right, that was my only question.
Yeah, don't forget all of you are able to advance yourselves to the 4th level of your particular profession. So
Yes.
that could give you some new goodies as well.
Oh, I'm
It
very
has.
excited
I'm ready
about
to
that.
talk about my new character if
All right, I would
Okay.
say go for it, Andy, who is over here. Haha, did it again.
All right, back
3 for
again.
3.
The latest heir in the Slashfoot family is Flan, daughter of Flank, named Flan because her mother had a passion for cooking. And her name is Flan. She's a level 4 warrior, which means she gets the level 4 perk, which is very useful. Parry. When hit with an attack, you may sacrifice a point of quality of your armor to reduce the damage by 1d6 per point, which is excellent.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very good, and because I'm wearing scale armor, which is a quality of what's that? Quality of 5, and I'm gonna probably die real soon. Fine, I'll do that with every time I get hit.
Yeah, though you could pass that armor down to future generations as well.
I could
so,
do.
you know,
I could do,
They
but the
could
warriors always start with scale armor. So
okay, well, there you
I've been like I will have it. I'll do flavor in that in order to be a warrior, you must craft your armor fresh every generation, so that it is nice
Beautiful.
and pretty and good and strong. And so there's that, and I have a passion for art, which is nice. I am a hulking, oily-haired, ceremonially dressed, sunken-featured, average-heighted, cryptic speaking. So like art school teenager. I'm thinking just for kind of moody and sort of oily and just kind of I do things with words and violence. Just
Tell me about the
Goodness.
ceremonial garb.
Oh, sure. This is a ceremony of their own creation that they've created. It has a tooth from every daughter that I have encountered and seen on my journeys. Not the tooth from the otter, just I have seen it from afar and imagined what its teeth would look like, and I've crafted it out of driftwood and just made like a little sash of wooden daughter teeth.
That's good.
Thank you. I think so. I
Uh,
got a B+ on it in class, but I like it. That's fun.
Matt or Ian, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all generations, welcome Crank 4! He's of average build with curly hair, simple clothing, and a chiseled face. Average height and quaint speech with a passion for hard work. He's a level 4 magician, which means he is an enchanter and may spend a rest enchanting a weapon or piece of armor on the floor.
All
The enchanted
right.
weapons get advantage on attack rolls, and enchanted armor gives 1 bonus to the armor die.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Yeah, Yeah, sorry. What
Oh,
did
yeah.
yeah, that's I missed a little bit. Can you give me your description again?
Yes, certainly. We are of average height, build, curly hair, simple clothing, chiseled face, and average height, and have a manner of speech which is quaint.
I see. And can you describe the quaint speed, or is that what you were doing? The boxing announcer. That's how Crankor communicates, or
I do declare that that is now how Crankor is communicating for this particular incarnation of this man.
beautiful, beautiful.
Over to you, academic.
The academic of this particular generation is, and I slipped up earlier, her name is Clarabelle.
All right.
Rosabelle had a little bit of a humor with that name, giving her Clarabelle to extend the lineage. Clarabelle is a level 4 academic. She is athletic and has a chiseled face. She's more of a swimmer than an academic, but she's in it because the family's in it. In so much that she has antique clothing from her mother when she was an academic, just kind of wearing the mantle literally. But she has average height, blunt speech, and oily hair.
All right. So you're like sort of typical college athlete. The hair is oily, I assume, to assist in the swimming.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. You got the sports scholarship to school. You got the art scholarship and the athletic scholarship.
Yeah,
going on
yeah.
there, so perfect.
I
Well,
went to community college.
the three of you have graduated, and you have finally reached the age where you get to say goodbye to your families and do what you've always known you have to do: sail out to the temple on the horizon to try and infiltrate the Deep Queen's lair, like so many of your predecessors before you. I should point out that the heirs don't have to be genetic descendants of previous heirs too. They can just be adopted. They can be people who were just sort of happen to be around. There's lots of ways that you can pass on knowledge through family ties and through eating the sand of those who came before you. So delicious. So you sail through slightly rainy seas, rainy and windy seas toward the Deep Queen's temple. Um, Ian, what's a bad thing that happens on the way?
Bad thing that happens is that we spring a medium-sized leak in the boat.
You spring a medium-sized leak in the boat, so water
Mhm.
sort of just slowly filling it up, and you're sort of trying to bail it out, kind of situation.
It'll be fine enough to get us there, but we'll have wet britches if we don't bail things out.
Andy, can you make that worse?
Yeah. Flan is like, no, I know how to do this. I took well, it wasn't called shop class. It was more like an exploratory event with power tools. And so I'm pretty sure what I have to do is if I take out my dagger and I take the I like really look at the hole and I become the hole, and then I go to the side of the boat to where I see there's more wood, and I misjudge the water line, and I cut an exactly that hole shape because I have a dex of 5, so I'm very good at this. I take exactly that hole out of the side of the boat and try to plug it in while water is now coming through a second hole in the boat.
Fantastic
Matt, how does
work.
that
Thank
get
you.
resolved?
I mean, like, if we don't act, then the boat's going to sink and all of us are not coming back home. I think Clarabelle is going to have to sacrifice her shield and just, like, affix it to the boat and cover
All
up
right.
the hole and just, like, handiwork it there.
Okay. So yeah, Clarabelle is like, "What are you doing?" and like
Yeah.
forcing the shield against the side of the boat.
I'm making art, Clarabelle. Take a moment to appreciate life.
That
God.
thing doesn't even fit the hole.
Trying to
All right,
cover the
so-
hole, not fit it.
So through great force of will, you manage to ensure the sacrifice arrives at the Deep Queen's temple. Like those that came before you, you head down a long flight of stairs that curve around, and you find yourselves in the same round room that has all of these various openings and eddies coming into it, and fancy lighting as described before, and as you encountered previously, there are 3 exits besides the stairs that you've just descended down.
Should we try and figure out the thing in the wall? Or should we go somewhere new?
I want to find out what's in that treasure chest our ancestors keep managing to miss every time.
Me too. I was very frustrated when we got flushed out of there.
I've received so many treasures from my ancestors, it's baffling, but the one thing I really want is the thing they couldn't have.
I'm down with that, man. I got to see what's in that box. I'm equipped. I have a grappling hook and 50 foot of rope. We are going to scale that ship and find what's inside, friends. You know, to hell with this crown thing. New mission. Find out what's in the chest in the vertical ship.
Sounds like a plan.
Great.
All right. So, yeah, which way does that mean that you want to go to find the vertical ship?
I think it's still south.
Sounds like a
Okay.
Be
plan, man.
directly ahead of us from coming down from the stairs.
Okay, so you head to the south, and you come to this kind of gross looking cave like room, which you do remember from a couple of previous delves. This is a room that is full of big fish eggs, like big eyeball looking things, and they're in pits. There's mud and refuse all over the walls, and there are a bunch of fish there. In fact, there are oh, sorry, yeah. Let's ratchet this back a bit. I didn't read all my notes. So as you are sort of going up to this room and like peering into it, you begin to smell something funny. Smells like carrion, blood, all sorts of nasty kind of smells that you would associate with a fish market. Where fish are being like stretched out and cut open. And it sounds like as you look in there, you see that there are some fish people, as have been described to you by your ancestors, but they are dead, and they are desiccated. There is a big creature in there that, if you can imagine like one of the aliens from Alien, like quite thin and gangly with big claws, except for instead of the big like Geiger alien head, you have a shark head. And also like the sort of nested teeth, because sharks just have that. But yeah, so it's in there, and it's got its back turned to you, which means that you can't hear what I'm saying. It's got its back turned to you, and it is just feasting itself on the bodies of the fish people who were in here, as well as the eggs. It's just like it's like able to put its whole mouth around one of them and suck it right down. It looks like it's having, pardon the pun, a whale of a time. And there are 2 exits from this room. One of which you've come through, so I guess the other one is to your right as you enter. But I'm just describing this from the door. I'm not saying that you actually necessarily walk into this room. But yeah, this large, scary-looking creature is having a pretty good time.
Now, if I remember my animals correctly, sharks hear based on movement. So as long as we're very quiet, we should be fine.
I'm good at sneaking. I could dex out of here, show you where to step to make the soft sounds and get out. We want to just leave because that looks like a lot.
I do want to point out that, yes, this is our last chance to not go in this direction.
Oh, we
Let's
could,
not-
yeah. Let's just leave. We could just back out of here, man. There are other doors off that main one. We don't have to keep going south.
Absolutely. Let's check out what's behind door number 2. And
Is
by
that-
2, I mean directly to the right of the one that we're currently in.
Okay. So directly to the so like right as you were walking, right as you came down the stairs.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Just clarifying. Perspective difficult.
It matters. It matters.
So.
So this would be west of the entrance room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This is a peculiar room. Just a moment. I will need to reference the book as I look at it. So this room is globe shaped. Its walls are a map, and I guess it's in this case it's kind of hemispheric. So the bisected by the ground. So or the floor. So you got the floor, and maybe not bisected. So you got the floor sort of near the bottom of this big globe that stretches out sort of around it. So if you can imagine that the floor crosses and takes up maybe about the bottom third of the room, or of the globe, and then there's 5 different large areas. Sorry, the globe's walls are decorated as a map, and there are 5 large areas that seem like they must symbolize oceans, and those are sort of made of soft clay. And then there are continents in the map that are made of stone. In the center of the room is a pedestal, and sticking out of the center vertically is a rod made of driftwood with a coral tip. And beneath it on the pedestal is some writing, but you can't really examine it from the doorway. There's also some other stuff going on in this room. So the floor, which you recall I was mentioning before, the floor is kind of a bunch of pools, like small, again, hemispherical, but in the other way. So they're concave as you view them from above. And the water in the room is flowing into them in sort of like a strange pattern. So they fill at different rates. They're colored. They are arrayed in a grid, and they're actually colored like a checkerboard. So every second one is black, is like surrounded in, is colored black. So, and then in the next row ahead, every second one is black, but they're offset from each other by 1. So it is effectively a checkerboard of these bowls. The bowls slowly fill up. Every once in a while, a bowl fills up almost to the brim, and then it opens, and the water spills out. And where does it go? Who knows? So that is the other thing that is going on in this room of interesting note.
This is new.
Yeah, there's also nothing here that could possibly tear our heads off but by appearances. So that's good. So
Clarabelle, I know you're good with languages. are you so good with languages that if you look at a written language, does that count as encountering it for the purposes of study?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic! I'm very curious about what this room is for. And if we pool our time, perhaps I could magic up someone's weapon.
Oh, nice.
Or defense.
Now, one thing that Clarabelle also has an ability is the Secret Seeker. So I make a Wisdom or Intelligence save, and on a success, I investigate the room without spending an exploration turn.
Right.
So I could basically like investigate the room and what's around.
Yeah, and I give you more information.
Yeah.
I think we should do that first.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, yeah,
so
you were saying that in character. I should say it back.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Just echo.
Yeah.
all right. So why don't you go ahead and make that save for me, please?
Where's my new character sheet? Okay. Ooh. That's a 2, so no.
That was not a good ooh. All right. So that's okay. It just means that to investigate the room, you will need to you will not have sort of an intrinsic understanding of the room. To investigate it, you will actually need to like look around and whatnot. I'm curious how you're planning to move over these, how carefully you're going to be moving over this checkerboard as you do this.
Oh, the checkerboard covers the entire floor.
It covers the entire floor, except for the pedestal in the very center.
This is... Oh, wait, I know how to do this. Haha! Friends, hop above my magic floating platform as I cast Hover.
All right, on.
We just latch on, like.
Yeah, I will use my Hover Pearl, which, casting that, charges L, which would be 4 for me right now. An object hovers frictionless 2 feet above the ground. It can hold L humanoids.
Okay,
L
so this is an important distinction. Your level is actually, you can gain levels on each run, but your level resets to 1 at the end of each, or at the beginning of each run. So your level is actually different from your generation. You have never actually had level 2 characters. You have always had level 1 characters, but you are advancing with your generational abilities.
No problem. Clarabelle, how'd you like to go over there on the platform?
Sure thing, boss.
All right, so you can hover Clarabelle around the room to give it a good old once-over. I need to check on something quickly. I apologize.
We can talk in character meanwhile. Where'd you learn to do that cool platform trick, Crank 4?
I didn't. My grandmother did.
Ah, cool. I get a lot of my stuff from my ancestors, too. Gives me an unfair advantage over other people who haven't inherited wealth.
They're ours now.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Clarabelle looks around, you can, get a little bit more information. Near the equator of each of the clay spaces, there's a small hole in the clay that constantly burbles warm water. So water is just sort of like kind of pooling around it and like just sinking into the mud, essentially. And near the North Pole of the globe, so like directly above the pillar in the middle, are small holes in the clay that appear to be burbling water as well. And if you hover all the way up there, you can see that they're burbling cold water. So that is what you're finding there. The pedestal is as I described it. It has some writing on it that you cannot read as of yet. But if you want to spend some time, you can probably figure out how to read it. Mm-hmm. As you're doing that investigation, for which I assume Crankor is concentrating on keeping Clarabelle levitated, out of the a door on the other side of the room come some more fish people. There are 8 of them, in fact, who kind of come up to the doorway and huddle around it a little bit and look quite surprised to see you there, doing your thing.
Oh shit! Hey! And Flan starts making just large, ingratiating, positive gestures. Wow! It's a more than merrier, guys. Come on in. It's good. We're having a fun. What a place you got! It's crazy.
Greetings and welcome, friends. Denizens, I assume, of the Moist Queen's Palace.
Okay, so the fish people are they're gonna talk amongst themselves for a minute, but yeah, then they are gonna start moving into the room. They are giving they don't seem to be like they're very concerned with what you're doing up there. And so they sort of move towards the center of the room, and suddenly one of the bowls opens, and a fish person disappears down into the hole, and the hole closes, and the fish people are extremely confused. They look up at you like, and they're starting to like again look a little bit skittish and move around the room. Let me know if you want to interrupt this what I'm doing, by the way. You can interrupt at any time. They're starting to like get a little bit like, oh my gosh, what happened? And like one of them sort of, or they're spreading out a little bit through the room, and one of them takes a step backwards, and the bowl opens up and he falls inside. So the other ones now are really freaked out.
Dead, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Clarabelle's just eyeing their patterns as best as she can from above as a very good vantage point to try and like suss out and scry what's happening.
Okay,
I'm comforted to know that the fish people also don't know how this place works.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you're able to notice as you examine the pattern of these things is that the only the black squares appear to be opening. So the white ones seem like they will offload their water into other places as they fill up. They sort of like tip a little bit, and they tip into one of the black squares next to them, and that leads to some of the sort of randomness in the pattern. It's very difficult to predict, because if a white square near a black square is full, it could tip all of its water into the black square, and then the black square will open up, and down the trapdoor will open. But you can definitely tell that the white squares are safe zones. So you can pretty effectively move through them. You've just got to move slowly to sort of like go diagonally from square to square with nice big steps. Fish have not figured this out, but they have figured out that the squares are scary. So we now have 6 fish left. 3 of them are hanging out in the hallway where they came through, and 3 of them are doing their best to sort of grab onto the central pillar and hold onto it to stop themselves from having to be on top of the scary floor. And they are continuing to talk in panic at each other, and continuing to talk in an exasperated and scared way at you, like, what are you doing, help, other such things that they could be saying. You're not totally sure.
Crank 4, bring me down.
That should release the gas that will bring you down slowly, I must specify, and not just turn off the platform.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, so you bring Clarabelle down, and the fish are actually this time kind of interested in communicating, it seems, but not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah. Should we save them so that they help us?
I don't see why not. They seem much friendlier than our ancestors seem to have indicated.
Yeah. I think we should show good faith by not killing them on sight like our family did. I don't know. So some are in the doorway, and other 3 are in the doorway, and Three
Three
more
are in the
just-
center of the room. I'm assuming that you are generally in the opposite doorway from where they are right now, because it is a safe zone and haven't been wandering out across the pools. Though now that you know that they are sort of how the trap works, it is certainly safer for you to do so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, then, in that case, Flan is going to, because she has a very high dex, she's going to step very gingerly, and making sure to keep in the white water, and observing the pattern of the checkerboard, and trying to corral with nice big safe movements the fish to the non black bowls, and get them to a safe place on the checkerboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fish are not. Go ahead.
You have a rope, don't you, Fawn?
I do. I had a grappling hook.
Mm.
Yeah. So the fish are gonna. They're hesitant to move onto the checkerboard at all at this point. There's one of them that is definitely the leader, and you can kind of tell that it's the leader because it is it's brandishing a spell pearl, and it is it's just got its. I'm not saying that it's like doing so in a threatening way, but it's like it's it's got it as it's precious and it's going. It seems to be the one who's calling the shots. Maybe it's the smartest fish.
Sure. All right.
I'm very interested in that pedestal in the middle, personally, but if we need to learn from some fish what to do here, this might be a good time to try some impromptu conversations.
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Just a lot of like movement to squares, basically.
Oh,
Okay.
no. So
Okay, so what are you trying, Crankor?
I'm just going to attempt to. We're going to start from scratch. Hello! Crank 4! Blah, blah. Blah, blah. Blah, blah.
Blah, blah.
It rolls its fishy eyes at you.
Yeah.
Flan, Clarabelle. Close enough.
That's far out, man. I know exactly how you feel.
This is an air bladder. We use it to float.
I'm gonna say, Clarabelle, if you want to try and like sort of figure out what the fish are talking about.
Yeah,
this is
she's just like examining everything and trying to get like what is the in their language, what is nouns in their language.
okay. You're slowly starting to get a picture of what is going on with these fish.
Yeah.
So after talking to them for a little while, the story that you get is basically this. There is a treasure in this room. The fish know. The fish captured and ate some other creature at some point generations ago that knew that there was a treasure in this room. And so the fish know that there's a treasure in this room. And so once every 20 years, some fish get sent into this room to try and find the treasure. And they always all die. Because they cannot figure it. They cannot figure it out. So they know that there is supposed to be a treasure in here, but they are on their quest to attempt to find the treasure, and they assume that you are trying to find the treasure as well.
Crank 4. You like your spell pearls. Do you want to get the treasure clearly in the middle of the room and give it to them in exchange for the spell pearl?
A A, can you communicate that well enough to them so that they know what we're actually doing? And B, why don't we just give them the treasure in exchange for them telling their families for generations that we and our families are really, really great?
That sounds good. I like that.
I mean, if that's all you want from this, sure. And Clarabelle will try to pantomime and use a couple of the words to, like, point at the treasure clearly there, point at them.
Okay,
Do
so
a
they're
heart.
they're confused. So I'm just gonna switch to the you understand the fish people mode. You know how to get treasure? Where treasure? You know how?
Just pointing directly at it, and then pointing at the squares, and
How to
pantomiming
get
walking.
treasure? Many generations have seen treasure, or no generation has seen treasure. Some get wand, but none see treasure.
Oh,
The
okay.
because they're huddled around the pedestal. One of them can even pick up the wand, as it called it, and hold it. It's not treasure.
Weird.
Do you know what the pedestal says around the wand?
No, but
Oh.
memories have told. Pedestals say. Apologies.
We're sorry. This room is out of service.
An idea that while they're trying to decipher the pedestal, Flan leans over and says, what if this is a whole culture that has like a completely different value system? What if their treasure is those weird bubbling clay things on the ceiling? Like maybe there's something gross in there that those fish people like.
Good God, that's hard for me to internalize, but you just might be right. Something that is disgusting to me could in fact be something wondrous to these fish people.
Yeah.
Birds say, hot to cold, cold to hot. Never stop, never stop. If do, we all drop.
Hot to cold,
So
hot
don't-
to cold, never stop, never stop. There was cold bubbling water at these clay things. If I wrote that down correctly, there was something with. Maybe there's something in
So
that.
there's cold bubbling water at the North Pole.
Okay.
And then there's hot water coming out of the center of each of the ocean bits of the map, which are essentially like big mud puddle things.
Yeah. So we have to cycle hot to cold and then cold to hot and keep the cycle going. And if it's interrupted, then the floor opens. Perhaps that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah. Woof.
Does the wand do anything?
The fish waves it around.
Yeah.
It does this.
Does that change anything in the room?
It whacks one of the other fish on the head. It does this. It looks at it in a way that you're like wondering if it's going to poke it in its eye.
Maybe I'll take that away from it. I could
So you
learn-
get treasure? You know treasure.
I could learn what the wand does if we rest a while. That is one of my abilities. Do we want to like rescue the people and rest in the adjacent
Absolutely.
hallway?
Sure. That
Okay.
sounds good to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you lead the fish they're like they have become trusting of you, trusting enough of you to be willing to follow you from white square to white square to get to where you want to be. Where are you taking them to?
Out of friendliness towards the group of them that were at their door, to reunite them. Would that make sense?
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
go deeper rather than go back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds
so you
good.
take them back to that doorway, and you are gonna spend some time trying to figure out if the stick that they call the wand has any magical properties.
This
You
is my most recent ability that I unlocked. I can spend a rest to study the treasure and use my kit, which I have because I'm an academic, to ingest sand of the past users. And in doing so, I gain 1,000 experience points. I learn the effects of the item, and I learn some of the history of the item.
okay, so you interesting. So you start to use this ability, and you realize pretty quickly that this is not a magical treasure, and
Okay.
it doesn't bear any sort of interesting memories from its past users. It actually is literally just a stylus.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
It's the thing that wrote down the inscription, maybe.
Or could be used
Possibly.
on the map.
Yes, absolutely that. We need to draw channels from the hot to wherever. We need to mix things.
Mhm.
And if the continents are just, or sorry, if the oceans are just bubbling clay, if we can draw lines in the clay enough that the water from the bubbling can follow the channel down to wherever we need to mix or where we want it to mix. Hopefully that will work.
Yeah.
Worth
Okay.
a shot.
How are you going to get up around the top of this room now? At this point,
It's a very good question because that hover charm is not going to work anymore.
Well,
But we did a
Unless-
rest.
sorry.
No, you're right. We did take a rest. So
Um,
yes,
So if you're gonna actually, I gave that one to you as a freebie because like you didn't need to take a full rest to discover
Okay.
the magical properties of it. It's just like
okay.
it's actually not magical. It's not
Okay.
a treasure in that sense. But if you want to take a rest to recharge, you can do that. That
Do
just
we
means
want
that
to,
you
or
run the chance of having an encounter as well.
yeah?
Mhm.
right. Is there anything in the map room that looks like I could toss my grappling hook up there?
Probably not.
Okay.
But if I want to say that if one of you stood on top of the pedestal and another person stood on that person's shoulders, and you used a spear, you could probably like reach the edges of the room that are inaccessible by using a spear or something from the ground.
And the stylus we have definitely established is non-magical and therefore is not essential to the drawing surface or process.
Ah, groovy. Okay. Anyway, either is I have just got this dagger thing. Does anybody have a spear or something? Or maybe the stylus is long enough to do it on its own. I don't know.
Stylus is like this long.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, we're gonna need something.
We should use a spear if any of us have it. I unfortunately equipped myself with an echo before this particular adventure, which is going to be a little less than useful.
We
Do you
can
wanna
ask
describe
one
an
of them
echo,
for a
Ian,
spear.
for the viewing audience.
That's a very good point. I believe it's something that looks like a boomerang, but I may be incorrect. I think, if I'm remembering it correctly, it is the logo for the Eastern Kentucky University basketball team.
I don't. I don't believe that's actually correct. The echo,
Yeah.
the echo
Oh,
is
wow.
a item that is unique to the setting, or this setting.
Yeah, I
I'm
thought
actually
it
not
had a
sure if it is
picture
unique
in
to
the
the setting,
thing.
but it is definitely associated with the setting. And I'm trying to find the description of it.
Oh wow! It looks like it's like an ore type thing.
Yeah, it's basically
Judging by the, yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. It's like a big oar-shaped sort of sword spear thing, but looks looks not unlike a shovel. Uh, I think that this sailor has an echo in
Yeah,
this
that was the
illustration
picture
here.
I was looking at there.
Yeah.
Huh.
Nice. That seems pretty long. This sort of spear
Weird.
length.
And
Yeah.
also, yeah, that okay. You know what? That's gonna do it.
Okay. So uh, the the blade part of the echo feels like it would be a very imprecise drawing tool. So be that on your head. Also, it's quite heavy. Like the blade part is definitely the heavy part of the echo.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got one person standing on another person's shoulders on top of a pedestal, that could make the weight pretty difficult. I would say that any attempt to draw with this at a distance of like whatever 10 feet or whatnot is going to suffer some pretty rough disadvantage. And if you were to maybe not do a very good job of it, you might topple
Now,
and find yourself.
if instead of trying to draw a special picture, I was just looking to create a channel,
Mhm.
say from a slash,
Yeah,
from one area to another, would that be slightly more advantageous?
I don't think so. I still think that you're
Okay.
kind of using it's like if you took a shovel, if you can imagine like a metal shovel, and you pick it up by the very end of its handle and try and do more or less anything with it. I think you'll find mechanical advantage is not in your favor. So
I just remembered something, friends.
What?
We're really bad at standing on each other's shoulders.
Yep, yep.
It's
I
true.
believe it's how my most recent ancestor died. However, I do remember that they noted that fish people are extremely good at standing on each other's shoulders, such that they can even operate long pole-like objects.
Oh wow! What an insight! Oh, that's great. Yes. Hey, fish guys, Clarabelle, get the fish guys together.
yes, what is it that you want?
If you want the treasure, we want to help you get the treasure. You're going to have to stand on top of each other on the pedestal in the middle of the room and use your spear to draw from the center of the brown blob up to the top of the room and then back down to another center of another brown blob. And I kind of like pantomime around the room, like from there to there to there. And I think we want to do a full circuit, right?
I think so. From the hot spot to the cold spot and then back again.
This seems like a bad idea.
It's all we got, man.
You know what? I'm looking to find out why.
We should
Also-
get a ladder.
You
That's
have
a
a
much
ladder?
better idea.
Please do. Please do.
We can go back to the village and we will get ladders there.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Should we come with you?
Oh.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Looking at your weapons and stuff. Yeah. They want you to come with them. All right. Well, they'll take you into the next room, the room
All
they came
right.
from. Do.
It's the fish camp, right?
No. This
No?
is a different room. This is a room that you remember again from previous delves.
It's the tube.
There are a bunch of sheets of seaweed hanging down in orderly lines from a lot of different spots, and moving among them are three big hermit crabs that are moving along sideways and occasionally picking up a slug from among the seaweed and looking at it, and then putting it back, just checking on things.
Marvelous.
Hey! I've always wondered what they're doing with this seaweed.
We're making slugs. They make slugs. Lots of slugs. And they sell slugs for sand.
Ah!
I have.
This is a shop.
Do any of us have sand?
I have sand. My mother got a handful of fish sand from the last time she came down here and nearly died. And I have it in a little pouch. Look, it's grody.
Can we buy a slug? I want to figure out what one of these slugs does.
Well, the crabs are certainly interested in talking to you. The fish are trying to like pull you into down to the south toward another room, but the certainly a crab is interested in coming up and clicking at you and whatnot, and taking a slug off the seaweed and showing you its various features. It is a sky blue slug with dark blue stripes. The crab uses its pincer to pet it a little bit and mimes like putting it into its mouth, and then closes its eyes and goes down toward the ground, and gestures and clicks and holds out a pincer.
Well, then Flan is going to go, hey, fish people, are you picking up what this crab man is putting down? Is this what's this slug maybe puts people to sleep? Am I getting that right?
Maybe slug is scary. Makes people close eyes and cower.
Oh, cool. I quite like that. Yes, good deal. And I hand a little tiny little bag of sand to the crab person.
The crab person takes the sand on its pincer and it sort of weighs it, and then it passes it back to you, and it's sort of like, and then kind of like it's got the slug back on the seaweed and it's kind of like gesturing to you. So as this bartering is taking place, some more fish people burst in the west exit, the one again opposite the one that you just came in, and seeing, like, I don't know, we can say that there's like a crab sort of close to the middle, a crab close to the north part of the room, and then maybe like one in the southwest. They basically the one of the fish, it has a spell pearl, and the pearl is glowing, and it as it comes through the door, it's like and doing some like very fancy fish person stuff that Clarabelle, you don't actually understand, because it's magic stuff that is being done. Magic words similar to what Crankor might use, Crank4 might use. Why don't we do a quick initiative roll to see the order that things break down in.
Who's got it?
I think I can't remember. Clarabelle, you go ahead.
Sure. 5.
Okay. So you go first. There's a group of 8 fish bursting into one of the other exits of the room and casting some sort of spell.
Do you want to just run off with the other fish where they were headed instead of fighting?
We should follow the fish that we're with, I think.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
So we should abscond from this situation?
I'd rather do that than fight right now. But Andy, any?
I'm down with that. I say to the crab man, "Too rich for my blood. See you next lifetime," and then head out with you guys.
All right. So as you're starting to move out, the spell goes off, and it basically creates a big wall of ice that cuts the crabs off from about a third of the room. And the crabs are starting to are getting pretty freaked out by this. They're clicking and moving around and whatnot. It looks like there's some area near the top of the ice wall that is actually still open. So if you wanted to scale it, you probably could. But yeah, they create this big ice wall that cuts the crabs off from a significant amount of the seaweed on again in a third of the room around the door. And the fish that you are with are quite happy to take you south into the next room. The crabs are freaking out though. They're all running up to the wall, and they're starting to try and hit the wall and break it down and squash the daring heist that is taking place.
It seems like the internal politics of this particular, I want to say, palace are much more complicated than any of our ancestors gave thought to.
Yeah.
Personally, go ahead.
No,
Sorry,
you
go ahead. Voiced my head.
No, you go ahead, please.
Personally, I think we might be better off allying ourselves with the fish people, given that our people have run into them a lot more often in the past and in much more hostile ways. We can gain the crab's trust simply by bartering with them fairly and regularly.
Agreed. We got to make things right with these fish folks. We got to help their treasure. I feel like anyway. It just seems right to me.
So you don't want me to swipe one of the slugs while they're distracted?
Well,
that's up to you. Out loud, I'd like you not to, but I can't control what you do on the inside.
I think we'll let this one slide. Well, we'll see what happens in the next room first.
Given their viscosity, letting it slide's a good idea.
Yeah.
So the next room that the fish are going to take you through is it's a kind of an odd thing. There's a ship in it that is suspended between the ceiling and the floor, with the bow in the floor and the stern in the ceiling. Also in this room is a fire, but not inside the ship. It's just sort of on the floor next to the ship. And sitting next to it is another hermit crab. And as it sees you, it seems to get very excited. It clicks and is shows great interest and beckons you to come over and sit down by the fire with it.
ooh.
Your seller likes to sell things. We keep going.
Oh, can we make a small pit stop though? Just for a little bit? Can we talk to this cool crab friend and maybe buy something off him and then maybe look around the room for a bit more? Do you have time? Are you in a schedule? Is this convenient?
We get ladder.
Okay. What if we'll wait here and then you get the ladder and we'll just wait out for you here. We'll talk to this cool crab buddy for a bit. We'll wait for you. We won't go anywhere.
Yeah, we're down for that.
Excellent. Well, happy trails, fish friends.
And they keep going south.
All right, good to know.
That is the only other exit from this room.
Okay.
So the crab is anxious to have you come sit down at the fire, and it is going to reach into. It's got a little bit of a bag with it, and it's going to reach in there and it's going to pull some stuff out. It's got it pulls out some dried fish, some salty dried fish. That looks like something that land people might want to eat. It has a couple of a couple of rolled up pieces of kelp, like sort of flat seaweed that have been rolled up, and it's like and it's like trying to gesture something, but it seems like very abstract. Um,
Are these like scrolls? That's my
That's what I'm
interpretation.
thinking.
Yeah.
it's quite the sales crab, so it will like actually like put one down and like use the sides of its pincers to like unroll one so that you can see that it is in fact covered with magical text. Um, and
Can I see what any of these scrolls are for?
I don't recall if an academic can just know or if it requires some time to figure it out.
Academic needs to take a rest to learn what a slug or a scroll does.
Okay. Well, the crab will gesture to you that uh, it gestures to you. It shows like for one of them, its pincers go like. And for the other one, it is it takes a one of the it takes a stick and like pushes one of the rocks from the fire around a little bit.
So one of them might be pulling stuff together, and the other one might be, I don't know, fireball.
I'm also thinking one of them might be a bind. One of them might be one of them might be bind. One of them might be push things at a remote distance.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. If I may motion at the crab, I point at the scroll which he gestured to and worked with the fire with, and I don't know. I look at I try to find a rock that is cold on the ground, and push that with my own finger and say,
it does some like clicking and gesturing, but it doesn't seem to be like the kind of aggressive or sudden clicking or gesturing that might indicate no.
Okay.
It's like a yeah, sure kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Academic,
So
yeah,
something
that seems like that might be it.
So that feels like that might just be a psychokinesis. I don't know if this is if this is what we want from this room. I'd like to point at the ship.
It sort of like it shrugs.
And point at what it's giving. Point at the ship. Question mark. Okay. It seems the ship may remain unmolested. Our treasure may yet be inside.
Excellent.
Does anyone want anything from this particular crab friend?
No, for
You're
me.
the scroll guy. Sorry.
I'm all right. I could totally give you some sand. You can get me back later.
I'll show him with the sand I've got and ask.
It seems to be
Indicators.
such a the pardon me. It again like it sort of has the same reaction the other crab did. It's like this does not seem to be heavy enough, and then it pulls out a larger bag of sand from its own bag and is like.
Oh, conversion rate's got us again.
Next time. I make a sad face, as close to a sad crab face as I can.
Yeah.
So
actually,
so,
no,
yeah.
no, sorry, wait. Before I do that, I will actually, Flan, do you mind actually if I use your sand as a bartering chip?
Oh, please do. And I hand it over quite nicely.
And I'll counter offer.
It still seems to be unimpressed by the size of the sandbag.
Okay, well, it can go pound sand.
But
Right.
the crab is happy to let you just hang out. It's it's got its little camp, and yeah,
That's cool.
that is that.
Right. Let's try to get in this ship and get the treasure inside. Let's do it upright.
I'm sort of looking at the time, and I'm like, yeah, we don't have a lot of time left. So if you want to do the ship, you should do the ship.
Let's do the ship.
Yeah, you can climb up. You can climb up inside the ship. And this ship does not have a treasure box in it. I apologize. It does have a body at the bottom of it. There is a body upside down inside the ship. Looks like it might be dressed in sailing. It's this sort of sailing outfit, the outfit of a sailor. You can tell it's a sailor by the eku, but you can't because the sailor does not have an eku, or this particular sailor does not have an eku. But it is someone who is dressed in sailing clothes, and is just sort of flopped down at the I guess near the prow of the under part of the ship.
You know what happens next.
There's no sand.
Oh,
It's already been desanded, I'm afraid.
Oh, but we should totally loot this dead body. We should
shake a skull above my mouth trying to get sand of it.
Ew.
Good to the last
the ship is
drop.
Yeah, the ship is there's like all sorts of like other random detritus and barrels and other rubble and whatnot that's in the bottom of the ship or the front of the ship. It's all sort of like collected there, but the body is sort of sitting prominently on top. So you can also like dig around in it if you want to.
Yeah.
You can loot the body for sure. The sailor has a fishing rod that and some tackle. So in theory, if you were to want to try and catch some of the fish that you see swimming through the little channels and whatnot over the time that you're resting, someone can take that fishing rod. It also has a pouch with a couple of jars in it, and each of the jars contains a slug. One of them is green with black stripes, and one of them is violet with red serrata.
I think I will take both of the slugs. There's two.
Yeah.
And green. All right. And I will examine those later.
You know what? I'm going to ditch one of my rations for the fishing kit.
Okay.
You're going to teach yourself how to fish?
I'll eat forever!
Marvelous. Is there anything else digging around in here? Just sort of pawing through, just lifting up the corpse indelicately and rifling underneath it.
So do you want to take like a full turn to actually search, or do you want to? Is this just like a cursory? I'm kicking some stuff around and seeing if I spot anything.
We gotta wait for these fish people.
I feel like taking the turn.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't actually find anything in terms of like treasure or gear or anything in the bottom of the ship. There's some like old disused cannonballs in like odd shapes. There's some bits of metal that might be salvageable and whatnot. You do find a giant clam shell that is stuck like inside the ship at like just kind of stuck to the side. It's like, I don't know, it's a big clam shell, like like a couple feet across. So you do find that. You also find what appears to be a trap door in the ground. So not in the ship, but like where the ship is sunken into the floor, there is a trap door in the floor.
Ooh. It's good to know. I mean, the Deep Queen was supposed to be downwards in some capacity. Maybe this would be a good way to the next level of this place.
It would be irresponsible of us to leave that door unopened.
Meanwhile, outside the ship, you hear there's a commotion of some sort going on, but you are inside the ship, so you can't really hear exactly what. There's some loud screeching that sounds almost simian. Some sort of monkey noises, and you hear definitely some like something's going on, and then like there's a big like something slams into the side. Something slams into the side of the boat, and everything shakes and moves around a little bit. You hear some clicking. It sounds like the crab is moving around a little bit. Something's going on out there.
Doesn't sound like something we want to be part of.
Oh, that sounds dangerous. We should
Should
take
we
a
just-
peek, though.
Yeah.
We
Who's-
should, at least take a peek.
Who's the sneakiest person here?
I'm sneaky. I have a dex of 5. Bonus 5. I should
You
sneak.
are absolutely the sneakiest person alive right now.
Can I do a sneak,
Okay.
Game Master?
Yeah, absolutely. You can make a dexterity check to sneak as you like climb back up and take a peek out of the whatever part of the boat is open at the top. The other two of you going to do anything? Well, Flan is
We're-
sneaking up.
Examine the
Gonna
door to
help.
make sure we can open it.
It looks like you can probably open it.
Okay.
I mean, it's movable. It's made of stone. It's hinged. It does look like it's part of the temple itself. The construction of the temple.
And I rolled a 15 with 5 bonus.
All right.
Dirty 20.
That's pretty good. So what you're seeing as you peer out, you see these monkey slugs that you seem to recall hearing something about at some point from some distant ancestor. And they are flinging spikes out of their bodies at this giant eel snake thing that is attacking them. And as you watch, the eel snake thing lunges and grabs one of them in its mouth and like ingests it right down its throat, and then like starts looking around hungrily for the next target. But it doesn't seem to have noticed you yet.
Cool. Good. Does it look? Does it have a lot of scarring, like decades worth of battle scarring? Is this the same eel?
Does it have? Yeah, it has like one big slash in the side of it that looks like it took some serious. It suffered some serious harm from some great grievous blow some 40, 60 years in the past.
Oh, we will eventually avenge Crankor 1. I don't know if now's the time though. And I suppose I sneak back and I report to my friends. There's giant snake bad person out there that killed Crankor's great grandfather. It's out
This
there.
is no time to be worrying about Caucasian cetaceans. We need to find out what's on the other side of this doorway.
Okay.
So what's on the other side of the doorway is a chimney with a ladder going down.
Let's go. That's what
Alright.
I think.
Yep.
All right, you climb down the ladder, and that is going to take you to the next level. But first, you are going to each gain 600 experience points
Holy moly.
as you head down to the next level. So you need 1,000 experience points to gain a level. So you are not you're not leveling up at this point, but you have gained XP.
All right.
Lovely.
And yeah, you have found, it seems, a passageway down to the next level of the dungeon,
Very cool.
which seems like a good place to leave things, because I guess we were actually supposed to leave things a little earlier so that we could do all the sign-off stuff. So now seems like a good time to wrap it up and do that sign-off stuff, and see all of you for some more gaming, hopefully next week.